Welcome, welcome. We are here live tonight. Thank you so much. Come in and join us. We are waiting for you to join our live broadcast. Every Tuesday night I'm with you live. And so let me take the ringer off my phone and wait for some of our guests to begin to join us before I present to you my special guest, the one and the only one, Toni Moore, Esquire. So you want to get ready and you want to share this broadcast. This is going to be a powerhouse talking tonight. And so I invite you to get your journal because this is what I know to be true. When Toni Moore talks, I take notes. Yes. Get ready. Get ready. Greetings, Minister Harriet. So glad you're here and you have an opportunity to share this broadcast live into your groups. Thank you, Dana. Thank you for joining us and thank you for sharing this powerful broadcast. We're not going to be here long tonight, so I invite everybody to come in, bring your journal, bring your notebook, because when Toni Moore speaks, we write. We take notes. I'm telling you. And I'm going to tell you again before it's over with, because it's so important that you get this information. And we are so grateful that she made time in her busy schedule to join us tonight. So invite others to share to our groups, and comment. Say, I'm ready. If you're ready, post ready. Ready. Every week when I come to you, I try to bring a message that is empowering as well as inspiring. And so tonight I have been connected with Toni Moore for a season here now. And so I'm honored that she is here with us tonight to share some important points about you covering your assets and taking care of your estate and building wealth for your legacy. She's not going to cover all of that, but that's what she is and that's what she do. And so, get ready. If you have questions, you also want to post the questions in the feedback, because we will, in the chat, we will have a Q&A after this very short presentation by our special guest tonight. So invite others to join us. I'm going to check my page and make sure that I am live there before I present to you Toni Moore. So hold on one second. Give me a moment. This gives you an opportunity to share as well. And so thank you for liking and comment. I see Minister Harriet says she is ready. I know that's right. Yes. So yes, yes, I am here. Awesome. I love it. We are live on my page. Good evening, Shael. We had a powerful game changer session tonight. And look, the beat goes on. So I want you to tag your other game changers, tag Pastor Linda and tag Lady Sharon as well, because we want them to catch these diamonds that are going to be dropped tonight. And so, ladies, and hopefully gentlemen will be joining us. I want to present to you, and I'm going to give her an opportunity to share a little bit about herself. We're just going to have a conversation. And the name of this broadcast is Get Yourself a Will. So we're going to have a conversation about the importance of having a will. Some of our celebrity icons, they pass on with not all their ducks in a row and not everything in order. There's some complicated situations. Toni was just sharing with me earlier today. Things are not always spelled out to the letter as it relates in the state, because each state has different rules and laws. And so, you need to be very abreast of what's current in your state, in your hometown, when it comes to handling your business. But, a lot of times when you hear stories about Prince dying without a will, you're taken back, like how? And Toni will tell you she sees it every day. She deals with this kind of issue every day. And so I want Toni to just share a little bit about herself and just tell us who she is. I know her as a friend, as a powerhouse, as a legal attorney. She is handling business for entrepreneurs and helping us to establish wealth and leave a legacy. So Toni, welcome and thank you for saying yes to this opportunity tonight. Just share a little bit from your heart about who you are and what you do.
Hey everyone. Thank you. I'll be calling you pastor and apostle and all that good stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I call you a kingdom boss, woman of God. But I am Toni Moore. I am, if I could change my assignment, I would, because most people do not like to talk about the legal side of life or legacy. But for me, it's just like I'm a kingdom woman, right? I'm a woman of faith, and I came from brokety broke. We was poor. I didn't have an option. I didn't have resources. So I tell people we were poor, and I didn't like the fact that we were poor because my mom was one of those laying prostrate women who would be speaking in tongues and being laying and before the Lord for a long time. But we were living like paupers, and we lived in shelters, and we needed to borrow sugar a lot, and we had more month than money, right? And I really didn't like it, but so I just thought that if I went to school, got a good job, and did all of the things that they tell us to do, then I became successful, right? And I did go to school. I was blessed to go to University of Penn, and also blessed to go to law school twice. One to get a Juris Doctorate, and one to get a an LLM, a master's in taxation. That was my chosen field, because it was just something about money. And for me, it's like, why is it that we're the broke ones, especially kingdom people, we are all meek and lowly, broke and busted and disgusted in the pews. And I'm just like, well, we're supposed to be high, and we're supposed to be holy, and we're supposed to be the ones who are going to shift changes, and nothing changes without money, right? So when I was at University of Penn, I met rich people. I'm coming from Coville, meeting rich black people, and it was just something that kind of like struck my soul, I'm sure. And then when I went to law school, I took some classes on estate planning and trust and estates, and there was always a trust in the estate and business hypothetical that really like was like, whoa, I like this. It was just something that once again appeased my spirit. And then when I graduated, I found myself working a lot with people who had bankruptcy issues, had foreclosure issues, had real estate issues, a lot of issues with regards to probate, because when grandmom and mom and whosoever had property, they didn't leave direction. So either gentrification would eat up the property, or the family would fight, and or people would inherit property or real estate, or how people like buying a block, but nobody had set aside insurance. So I had was just laid on my spirit, and I was just like, I want to learn how to be an investment broker. And I went to Merrill Lynch. They was like, girl, you smart, you pretty, and all that good stuff, but you don't know nobody. So you would have to leave your law firm. I was in the law firm associate, and start with the white pages. I don't know, younger people won't understand the white pages, right? And I was like, nah, I'm not giving up this because I'm already broke. I'm from Brokeville. I'm not getting broker. And then I went over to Prudential, and they were like, yeah, you have a good personality, but you didn't pass the test because they had this calculation. I always just think of it like gatekeepers, always trying to keep you out of a situation. But I met this guy, and he was an attorney, and he was also a CPA, and he worked for Price Waterhouse. And during, a cocktail hour, because I went to law school at Temple University, he had talked about how he had known of this woman who was a cleaning lady, a black cleaning lady, who set aside an endowment to help girls grow when they wanted to go to college, so they didn't have to struggle. And for me, that was like a big smack in the face. Like, it woke me up, because she was a black cleaning lady. All the time I thought you had to be filthy rich. So I always didn't know how to take the next step, because we came from Coville, you know what I mean? And we didn't have that type of thing. And I am first generation college student who actually went and finished, completed, passed, and went back to school, and actually taught for like almost 15 years as an adjunct professor. But it was just the idea that a black cleaning lady was able to create a business and set aside some monies for an endowment to bless others. And it was in my spirit. I wanted to do it. So went over to Primerica, learned more about the Rule of 72, and learned more about the money side of financial planning and estate planning. I tried to go to my church people. They was not trying to even let me come into the church, because I wanted to talk about financial security and estate planning. And one church, they did, it was only 5 people who showed up. One of the guys who had to open up the door and close the door, he died 5 months later with 5 kids and no insurance. So I was just like, nah, Jesus, I'm not working with this. So I ended up working in the area of business and retirement security. That way I was doing compliance, making sure that at least no one was stealing on my watch someone's retirement. Because, like this one white guy told me when I had to choose you this day between estate planning or employee benefits, and I was like, I don't know which one to do. He was like, your people, and I'm sure it was derogatory, but it doesn't matter because God will, He will, give you directions and introspection, what by it, whatever. He said, look, if you had to choose your people, if they are going to have money, if they are going to get something for their security, it's going to be through a retirement plan. And just like that, I shifted my thoughts. And then as I developed more in retirement plan and compliance, I started learning more about business and structuring, start learning more about the sophisticated elements of, leveraging brands and businesses and pulling out estates and buying and flipping businesses, right? And I was just like, so when I was talking to one of the directors about it, he was like, hey, most of your people, aren't really doing as good of a job of building businesses. Oftentimes we start a business, we're very good at starting, but most of us, I think it's like 80% of us do not have an employee, or if we do, it's just one employee without benefits, right? But I was just like, but when we do make it happen, when we take that leap, we start a business, we understand and appreciate that it's about bankrolling our brilliance and building a legacy and taking care of the loopholes and setting aside. Somewhere in the Bible and Proverbs it talk about a wise person lays up money, so our ladder can be greater, and lays it up for our children and our children's children. So it's something inside of me as a faith-based woman of God. It's like I need our legacy to be better. I can't just have it be like words that I heard. It's just something about the fact that I'm just like, if God says that He has given us the power to create wealth, then it's not just about creating wealth, but we also have to protect it so that each generation doesn't have to start over. You know what I mean? Like each generation starts over because we lack the documentation. Look at Aretha Franklin. She had four sons. They kept going to the court like, oh, this is mama's holographic will. This is mama's holographic will. She ended up paying like $8 million to the IRS. And I was just like, and if she would have put all of her interest into a trust, IRS wouldn't have got nothing. So it's my heart, just being a businesswoman. It's a kingdom introspective because, I love the Lord. And I say that me and mama, we worship the same God, but we have different experiences. She stayed in the broke, busted, and disgusted lane. And I was just like, nah, I'm not just gonna be eating from the crumbs. I'm gonna be serving at the table. I'm gonna be high and lifted up. I want to be someone who is going to be helping my folks. You know what I mean? I want to be a philanthropist. I want my more bigger foundation to bless others like the Milton Hershey School blessed me. So that's what I'm committed to, and it doesn't feel good just to be the only one. And because I don't want each generation to have to start over. Like, we don't gotta start over. We just gotta appreciate that power to create wealth means that we now have to play the wealthy game so that we can protect ourselves, our children, and our children's children, so that we're not paupers. So even though I serve a whole bunch of people, I'm really looking at my kingdom people like, look, we cannot, okay? Because we already know money gives you options. And when we have money, then we can put things in place. Prayer works, but profit is prayer and profits. Come on, somebody.
My microphone is mute. There you go. Thank you so much. I really sense that God is going to give you great wealth because you have a heart to empower, to enlighten, to help women, in particular entrepreneurs, to establish the legacy. Not only and the word says a wise man, a good man leaves an inheritance. I might add a woman leaves an inheritance for her children. A lot of times
Mhm.
we think grandchildren, but it says the children. So for several generations, we need to set things up. Yes, we
Mhm.
want to bless our grandchildren, but don't forget the kids. You got to teach them so they can teach theirs. And so we don't want to get it twisted. This is a generational conversation that we're having tonight. And so if you know someone who needs to be a part of this conversation, because too many people die without taking care of their business. You know, Miles Monroe said that the greatest wisdom was out in the cemetery, that died when people died because they didn't share it. And I want to add to it that, you know, we die without succession plans, without legacy. We work, then we die, and we don't leave a game plan or a blueprint for the next generation to pick it up and read it. Read the vision, Habakkuk says, write it down, read it, and run with it. And so, you know, tonight, I thank you all for joining us. We have Barbara Moore here with us. We have Tafia, my game changer. Bless you. Welcome, welcome. Pastor Pat Lankin is here. Oh, you know, this is good information for you as well as your church members. Thank you so much for joining us, Minister Darlene Williams. I am so glad that you're all here because we're putting it down. When Toni Moore talks, you need to take notes. And so make sure you're writing down what it is that she's saying. Look, she does lives all the time. I'm a part of all her groups. And she's always, every day, dropping diamonds. And so it's a blessing to have her here with us tonight. And her journey hasn't been easy. It hasn't been a short one. And she continues to reach out and to help others and to support others, you know, with all kinds of books. I have several of her books. I know there are more books that are coming. And at the end, she's going to share more about her products and her services. But right now, Toni, let me ask you a question. Why is it so hard for us to sit down and have a conversation about a will and a trust?
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for like 20 years plus. And I personally think that it's something inside of us that we think that if we do a will, it's morbid and we're just thinking about death. Like when I do estate plans, even for younger individuals, and they're like, okay, family, I'm doing my estate plan. Immediately they're like, oh my God, are you dying? Are you sick? Or you did the da da da. And I'm just like, I said, I get it. My husband, I said, you know what? I just created your will. You're going to sign on the dotted line, or you just going to look at it and edit it, because to get him to sit down and literally, when we talk about a will, y'all, I'm just asking, okay, who's the beneficiaries you want to bless? That's one. Where do you want to be buried? That's two. Who do you want to get specific things? Like, he's a musician. So who do you want to get all of your keyboards? He has copyright registrations. Is there anyone in particular that he wants to share the registrations with? Because that's money on the table. If you have a car and you have children, who do you want to have who wants to have the car? We have real estate together, but if he had additional real estate or additional properties, or sometimes we have like a particular person who always wanted certain things. Like when my grandma passed away, she had hats, and I always loved her hats. I didn't get all of them. I didn't ask for all of them, but they did give up some. And some people have jewelry, and some people have furs. But if there's a particular gift, then that's what you do. And that's what a will is, so that it's given instruction and direction upon your death, and also what a will does is also, if you have minor children. I have minor children. One will be 18 on Saturday, but I still have a 14-year-old, right? So one of the things that wills also do is give direction and instruction on, hey, if something should happen to me, I want this person to serve as the minor guardian. Too many people don't do anything, and then when you don't do anything, you have to go to the court and let some rich old man dictate what's going to happen to your kids. God gave these kids to you. You know what I mean? So this works right now. My husband and I, we happy. It's all good. But there's a lot of people who are single parents. There's a lot of people who are widows and they have minor children, so you need to have some instruction in place. It shouldn't have to be to the point where, you providing and taking care of your children up until death, but you don't have instructions on who's going to take care of your minor child or your special needs child or even a special needs relative that maybe you're the fiduciary and you're taking care of. You need some instructions. Without the instructions, then this whosoever will gospel going to show up at the register of wills and be like, oh, I'm supposed to do da da da. And there's a lot of, we talk about gentrification where people are taking taking over the neighborhoods. But I'm like, there's a lot of us who lose out because someone decided not to give instructions, right? With regards to it. So you have the will, identifying who your family members are, who you want to bless, how you want to be buried, and who's going to take care of your minor children. Then you also give away your special bequests. Those are, hey, I want to identify, I want to give 1,000 to this person or 10,000 to this person, or I want to gift to my church. Now here's the deal. Where I'm African American, I was working with Caucasian Americans, right, with the American Bible Society. They talk about a development plan. They know, hey, we're going to do a development plan. We're going to, bless us or in your will. We'll even help you with your will if you need some assistance, right? They don't really push it because their endowment is almost $1 billion to help individuals. They wanted to make sure that their mission is to interpret the Bible in every dialect so that everybody gets a chance to understand. I like the CED because that's one of theirs that they do, right? But when I look at black churches, I'm like, does the pastor have a will? You know what I mean? What's going to happen? Because sometimes, especially in smaller churches, everything is in the pastor's name. Someone had asked me about assisting them because their pastor family member passed away, and the property was in the pastor's name. I was like, technically, that that's a nonprofit, and technically, that that's not family property. But what if someone didn't know? But they gave no instructions. So she wanted to do the right thing. But I was like, well, technically, you don't have a church, you don't have trustees, you don't have bylaws. Like, you either got to do the right thing or you sell it. And by law, there should have been some instruction. So that's why we have to understand those wills give instructions for family, instructions for children, instructions for what's going to happen with the money. And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, look, you need a will. You need some instructions as opposed to us having to do, well, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one of your family members are you supposed to, who did you want to be the executor of your estate? I had this one. They had 50. They had like three siblings, but because Daddy and them did not have a will, one of the siblings. They had three siblings. One of the siblings died without a will. Then rich old men, kind of like the same rich old men who decided about Roe v. Wade because they felt like it, have already determined if you do not have a will, we are going to make sure that if you don't have a will and you're married, then 50% about goes to a spouse, and the other 50% goes to the kids. If you don't have if you don't have kids but you have grandparents, then they have already determined every state is different with regards to it. It's called your intestate succession. Meanwhile, you should probably earmark and be like, well, whatever state you're in, because I'm not going to assume everybody's in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, whatever state you're in, what is the intestate succession? Who gets what first? If I fail to leave instructions. But if we grown and we're like, I'm the boss of this and I'm the CEO of that, you can't be the CEO of your legacy by giving instructions, especially when you have children, especially if you know that you have dysfunctional family. I had this one, everybody was older than me. They were all over 70 years old. And I felt as though I had to have a come and see my Honda moment. I am not known to be the prayer warrior, but we had to pray off some demons on that because one set of the family members took one place and the other set of the family members took another place, and nothing could have been done. But Mama lived long enough to have set stuff in order, and she did not. So it became real messy. And then the family, the sad part about it was they was on bended knee for like the first year. But after the third year, they pretty much was waiting for each other to die to see who would get it next. But what they failed to understand, and I had to let them know, Mama didn't have a will. So if someone else dies, you know what I mean? If somebody else was dead prior to Mama, then you have to share with the siblings' children or spouses. I said, how far do you want to go? Because you're in your feelings. So, in answer to your question, most people don't want to do wills because of the fact that one, they don't want people to get paid off of them. I ain't nobody getting rich off of me. That's what I always heard when I was trying to get people to invest in their legacy by purchasing an insurance policy. Then I was like, and give further instructions. Because if nothing else, just know once upon a time, I don't, things I used to do, I don't do no more. But once upon a time, I was a divorce attorney and I was a probate attorney. And my probate clients were worse than my divorce clients.
Wow. How so? How?
Spirit of entitlement.
Oh, got you. Okay. You catch that? Spirit of entitlement. I have lived long enough when there's a lot of discord, a lot of debate at the funeral time, is because someone did not leave instruction. There is no will. So those who think they're entitled because they took care of the person, or they're the closest to them, or they're the firstborn, or they the baby, they think that they have a right to say and to do how their heart, speaks to them. But when you write a will, you're leaving instructions. I like that, Toni. I like that.
Yeah. Like there's always destruction when there's no instruction. Always. It destroys the family, it destroys the legacy. I know this one family that, I mean, that family is like pretty much demolished because of some spirit of entitlement, because they had hurt feelings that they didn't squash before the person died. And then they just used litigation. They couldn't have a conversation, so they just used litigation. And some people are so evil that they're like, I'll rather destroy you and force you to spend all the money that you think you inheriting just so you don't get it, just so you don't enjoy it.
Wow. Wow. Let me just check and see if there's any questions from anyone tonight. Pastor Pat says that this is good information. And Shayelle says these are good questions. Do you have any questions, Barbara Moore? Welcome, welcome. Ruth Williams says she's taking notes. Do you have any questions tonight? Are you struggling with the reality that we are appointed to die? This life is temporary. And if you do not leave a will, you do not leave instructions, you're really offending those that you leave behind. You're saying that you don't care about the life that you have lived, what God has blessed you with, because we're required to be good stewards. And stewardship means that you handle your business, that you write a will and try to avoid the probate taxes and the attorney fees. I just saw where, Reefer Franklin IRS debt was settled, and I can imagine the penalties and fees that have accumulated and the attorney fees, because some things were wishy-washy and there was a couple of wills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So please handle your business tonight, you know. And Ruth made a good point. She said, especially when there's a blended family. Oh, let me tell you, it gets hot and heavy with a blended family. Everybody is quiet and loving one another while the living is alive. But you let somebody die, the real character of that individual will show up. Toni, we
This
have an
is true.
excellent question for you right here. Barbara Moore says, I need to start my estate planning. How do I contact Toni?
Yes. You can always go to Ask Toni Moore, AskToniMoore.com. Miss Barbara, I see you, and I know her personally, so I rarely ever put my whole like business phone number because I don't want nobody calling me for no questions. So that's why I just send people to the calendar for asktonymore.com. But they can always also Google the More Legal Firm as well. But if I'm not available, then it's asktonymore.com. And when people call, some people just call. Like this young lady called recently and was like, "Do I need a will?" Like, I'm busy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just certain things that that. And I said, "Do you have any children?" She don't have any children. "Do you have a business?" She doesn't have a business. You know what I mean? I was like, she said, "But I'm starting to get property." I said, "Here's the deal. We always say that you need a will, because without a will, especially if it's a blended family or a broken family, I know that even young people need wills because of the fact that one of my friends, her son passed away, and the father, who never, never acknowledged his son, came out of the woodwork and wanted half of the estate because there was no will. You know what I mean? So I always say there's always some level of destruction without instruction. So if you want to make sure that you don't make room for the devil to just show up and be like what they're entitled to, and they never spoke to you, they never did anything. Especially even if you have a blended family, or you have, I have a family that I gave birth to and a husband that's loving on me, but I also have sister, cousin, girlfriends who aren't, they're not skin folk or kinfolk, but they're my family. You know what I mean? So if anything should happen with my family, I want to make sure that their kids are taken care of as well, because they stood by my side more than people who look like me or talk like me. So you need those instructions, because without the instruction, and like I said, the intestate succession pops in. Intestate succession tells you, oh, where's the mother? Where's the father? If Jesus said, "Who is my mother? Who is my father?" And if you have those situations, you do need an instruction listing on, this is the mom who I'm taking care of. This is the sister who is going to get the house. This is the cousin who, I'm going to utilize my Roth RA and pay down their debt. Those are the type of instructions that you need to have with regard to, because always remember, without the instruction, it reverts, it defaults to your state, and your state has already dictated. Oh, if you got a wife, wife takes all. Oh, it's got wife and kids. Okay, then the wife takes a certain percentage, and then they got to split it 50-50 with the children. But if that's not your intentions, if your intentions was to take care of a spouse, then take care of the spouse and put it in writing. If your intentions was to take care of the grandmoms and the grandfathers, then handle that, and you have to put those instructions in writing. That type of thing. If you have real estate property, especially business owners, when you got business owners with partners, y'all need to have a conversation, because one, there should be a partnership agreement in place, and also with the LLC, an operating agreement that includes some level of succession planning. But I got really focused on having these conversations more so because one of my clients was a big, huge celebrity, and they had like a lot of siblings, and one of the siblings passed away, and the remaining siblings had to work with the man who she divorced because she didn't have a will, and his son was old enough, he was grown enough, but he always deferred to the father. So because there was no will in place, they had to pretty much be partners with a guy who their own sister divorced. And I said, "Oh, I never
Ooh,
thought of that."
yes. Tony, we have a very interesting question here. If it's scribbled, I guess they're referring to a will,
They're talking
on
about
a
a
piece of
holographic will.
paper, is that viable? Oh
Put
my
it like this.
goodness. Ah,
It's messy because first of all, if it's scribbled, it still has to be legible. The best wills are the ones that identify who you are. So if you are going to do what we call a holographic will, it still has to be legible. And it's still, most people don't sign it, and they don't have witnesses. And then with a holographic will, you still not putting any real instructions with regards to it. Who's going to pay down the debt? Who's going to be the executor? What if the executor doesn't want? Did you put something in place for a successor executor? What if that person doesn't want to do it? What about a tertiary executor? And then with regards to it, who's the witnesses? See, we like a self affirming affidavit with regards to it only because when we have witnesses and you need two or more who's gathered together and they write down what their name is and their address, then you have a notary. That way it's like a self affirming will where it's like, this is my will. These are the individuals who watch me. And then we also affirm in front of a notary. So now you don't have to take the witnesses to the register of wills to establish that you are in fact that this was in fact your will. And some people move. Some people change their addresses. I get people 3 years ago, they started a business and then they got a question. And I'm like, how's the business going? Oh, the dog ate the cat. The cat ate the dog. And I moved and I didn't get that box of documents and all this other stuff. And I'm like, you know, not everybody is, not everybody is responsible. So when you just do it because, oh, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to Turkey or I'm going to Dubai and I don't want anything to happen. That's good. But if people can't read it, then guess what? They're not going to pick it up. So even though laws allow you to have a holographic will, 9 times out of 10 it gets set aside. Especially if you
Woo.
choose, especially if you forget that you disinherited. If you want to disinherit a family member, you better put that in your will. Now, one time somebody was like, "I want to disinherit because they talked about me," and I was like, "Come on now, you don't want negativity on negativity." You know what I mean? Like you need Jesus and therapy if that's what you want to put in your will. You can say whatever you want, but at the end of the day, do you really want that type of negativity? That's your last statement to your family members, and they read it and they be like, and somebody touched me and someone molested me and nobody took care of me, so that's why I disinherited all of them. At least acknowledge, especially with regards to if you have a spouse. I'm gonna let you know right now, if you have a spouse, as like divorce the spouse if they're not the ones who you want to, because even in Pennsylvania they can elect against your will because by law they can get 33 and a third. Community property states, they get 50%.
Say that again, Tony, please. That last statement.
No, I was saying that if you have an estranged spouse and you don't want that estranged spouse to take from your estate, then you need to divorce them during your lifetime because by law, they're entitled to 33 and a third of your estate. And in community property states, they're entitled to 50%.
That was powerful. That was a powerful piece of information right there. Yes, 33 and a third percent.
Right.
Yes, estranged husband, people that you are not divorced from, and some people intentionally do not get a divorce.
Right.
Hello.
Well, their thinking is because remember I was a divorce attorney for 10 years, and sometimes it's cheaper to keep her or him. But you've seen situations where there's a person who is they get older, but they had a girlfriend who stood by their side, and they have some children born out of wedlock before or after the marriage. And I've seen wives, not as much men, but I've seen wives show up, take everything, not even bury a person, you know? And
Yeah.
you're like, dang, that's kind of messy.
Yeah.
Or sometimes if you have a live in girlfriend, I've seen where they refuse to tell your children where stuff is because
Yes.
they feel some kind of way. And that's a problem, you know? So hopefully the person who had that holographic will question knows that it still needs to be signed in front of two witnesses or it's not valid. So that's you do that is just as good as you not doing anything.
Wow. Right there was worth coming on tonight. These last 5 minutes has been absolutely powerful. There's another question. Um, so would you suggest, Tony, leaving perhaps 2% to the person you want to disinherit?
Well, by law, at the end of the day, if it's a spouse, you either divorce them or you set aside what they're supposed to get. Okay, and it's good to at least I 33rd and the third 2%. What's that? Nothing. You know what I mean? They will fight you on it because if nothing else, we may not do what's required by law, but if you ever did rental properties, people who They know the law to the point that they stand to benefit. So with regards to it, if you don't want someone to elect against, or you don't want a situation where a spouse refuses to share a property with your children, and they not really can't even get forced, because who wants to evict a spouse from the marital home even if they were estranged, but everybody knows the truth, but no one's going to do that under the rules. And then to try to force someone to give, like 50%, because I it's usually like the first 30,000 goes to a spouse, and then the remainder gets split between all the children. And if you have a blended family, and sometimes the remainder spouse is the one that will always take care of their children, right? But your other children get outside. Or I was an outside, born outside of marriage type of person, but I never felt comfortable because I didn't really know him in the first place. You know what I mean? So with or without a will, I could care less because I didn't knock on that door. But there's a lot of other children who are like, nah, you're my parent. And people would be like, well, they acknowledge me. And it's so interesting how people want to be a judge and a jury to your children that was born outside of the, well, where's your name on the social security card? Where's this? Where's that? And they will shut them out because of the spirit of entitlement. So always remember, there's always destruction without instruction. You know what I mean? Because someone will demolish and they'll take away everything that you've built up. And so that's where the instruction comes into play, because when you will it, they must fulfill it. That's just that's just the law, because that is your property. This is your legacy. This is your business. This is your children. And while you are of sound mind, then you get a chance to dictate what happens to your estate.
I love it. Don't you just love Toni Moore? I'm telling you, when Toni talk, I take notes. Okay. Look, this is powerful, just like Dr. Marcella Johnson just said. This is powerful. And so, in these last few minutes, if you have any other question, you're not going to get an opportunity like this again. I suggest that you quickly put your questions in the chat because we're about
Hmm.
to wrap it up for the night. I am so really, really honored that Toni took the time out to share with us. And Ruth Sparkle Williams says, thank you. The scribble note was honored before they had two children witness it. Huh. Was honored before they had two children to witness it. Okay.
Yeah, and that's usually hard too, because it usually is not good to bring children in, because when you have witnesses, it's always good to have two disinterested parties. So she's saying the holographic was honored, but in Pennsylvania it's allowed as long as you have two witnesses. Now the court and some of my cousins, they have mismatched names, but I tell you, in the Moore household, I couldn't have my kids witness it because we have the same last name. But if you have different last names, then the register of wills aren't always going to be like, well, who is this and who is that? Because they have a lot of work to do. But technically, under the rules, the disinterested witnesses should not be the ones who take anything from the estate. You know, with regards to it, yeah, because they feel as though the law feel as though if you have something, if you have some interest in it, pecuniary interest, then you're more than likely going to side with anything that you're going to get money from. So that's why they always want disinterested parties with regards to it.
Wow, that was good, Tony. That was good. Tafir has a question. Is there a list of things that are basic that should be included in the will? And what exactly is a trust? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That trust part is an excellent question. Look, let me just jump in here before the attorney jumps in here. Anything that's valuable to you should be accounted for in the will. Your furs, your jewelry, your car, your money, your stocks, your bonds. I mean, if you don't think it's valuable, hey,
Right.
another man's junk is somebody else's treasure. Look, if you got a paycheck, if you got insurance on the job, look, everything, everything. So, Tony, jump in there and conclude the matter there.
Yes. And usually what ends up in the will is it's usually the things that have title in your name. So if you have, employee benefits, generally speaking, it would behoove you to make sure that you have beneficiaries and also alternate beneficiaries listed, just in case something they die, so that they will take from the estate automatically with regards to it. If you have real estate properties, those pass because you have to change the title. So if you have to change the title, then that's what goes through probate. Houses go through probate. Cars go through probate. Generally speaking, businesses go through probate. Anything where you have to transfer from one person to the other. If you can set up and have like, oh, if I pass away, then this is the beneficiary. Life insurance does not have to go through probate because you can identify. Bank accounts do not have to go through probate because you can have a beneficiary upon death, payee upon death. All they have to do is just present their and what do you call it, your death certificate, and then they'll receive. It's automatic, right? With regards to it, when people ask me about trust, I tell people all the time, not everybody needs a trust, but everybody for the most part needs a will. Because that's instructions on what's gonna happen with regards to your minor children, what's going to happen with all of your property that has a title to it, what's going to happen with your cars, what's going to happen with your day-to-day day-to-day properties with regards to dishes and clothing and shoes, and if you have an apartment, if you have computers, what about your digital assets like your social media, accounts? What's going to happen? Do you want it to be a legacy account, or where people get a chance to come back and remember you? Because those are all something that you have to set direction to, right? Even with regards to if you are a business owner, because I work 99.9% with business owners, right? What's going to happen if you have a copyright registrations and you have trademark registrations? Those all go into your will, right? Because you're creating instructions. You're identifying, this is what I have. This is where I want to be buried. This is who I want to be my minor's guardian. This is where sometimes you need to, trust me when I say this, identify, this is my insurance policies. This is the beneficiary because, you know, this beneficiary is supposed to do XYZ, because some beneficiaries get slickericious. I did tell you that once upon a time, I was a divorce attorney and a probate attorney. And sometimes people listed as the beneficiaries, usually the oldest child back in the day, sometimes they don't do what they're supposed to do. They're like, I'm keeping the money for myself. They won't even bury the loved one because their name is on the life insurance. So where you need to put instructions, even if it's something called a residuary clause, you need to put instructions, because without those instructions, intestate law steps in, right? And the trust, it's more like, I always tell people, when you're thinking about a trust, it's because you got a lot of money, or you got business, you got properties, and you don't trust anybody else with it. You don't trust your family, you don't trust your loved ones, because they don't work as hard and they don't understand, because not everybody is going to dig into their mental toughness and or into their fortitude as a faith-based entrepreneur, or even someone who is legacy driven, and say, you know what, I'm gonna overcome poverty and I'm gonna set this money aside. I'm gonna learn about the rule of 72. I'm gonna start playing around with the stock market. I'm gonna get this insurance policy, right? So if you know that, one, you want to create generational wealth, and you know that you have like properties or monies that go into a minor child, and you want to make sure that that minor child doesn't inherit immediately. Because if a minor child inherits, once they turn 18 or 21, depending if it's an UTMA, depending on the state, sometimes it's 18, sometimes it's 21. Whatever they get at 18 or 21. I don't know about you. I mean, I'm 50 plus, but I remember at 18, I was very irresponsible. You give me some money, that money went, okay? And most people know that if you didn't have to earn it, you will burn it, right? So if you don't want that to happen, then you entrust it. I want you to think of it. They don't call it entrusted, but I want you to think a trust is entrusted. You think of it like a big purse, just a cryptocurrency wallet goes into this big purse. Real estate assets, every time there's a transfer, there is a taxable event. Need to know that. So sometimes people get sticker shock when they be like, oh, I want to put my house in it. Well, in Pennsylvania, it's the value of the house you have to pay 4% on. if they didn't, if they, whatever that percentage is, you're paying a percentage because people be like, oh, I don't have to pay taxes. No, you don't have to pay taxes because the person who entrusted all their property, if they had to do a realized event, they already paid the taxes. So now it's entrusted for a family friend or a lawyer or an accountant or someone who has a good grip on money, that they're now the directors. They're now going to be the one who can make a discretionary decision, or they now are going to follow your directions. At 18, little Johnny's getting this. At 21, they getting this. In the meantime, if they go to college and get straight A's, you can write down literally the instructions, the contingencies on what they need to do. It's not a poor person's thing. People are like, I want to do it. It costs about 2,500 plus. I have friends who charge tons of money for trust because there's a conversation and a reconversation, a conversation, and then there's now you're going to start changing the deeds because there's nothing in the world worse than creating a trust and not funding it with money, funding it with business interests, funding it with cryptocurrency, funding it with bitcoins. Because in order to bless others, your children, children, even your nonprofits, it needs money because money answers all things. So when you are creating a trust, please understand that you're entrusting someone else to follow your instructions, to create the real estate, to handle the business, to write the checks, to make sure. Because you don't trust mama in them, you don't trust daddy in them, you don't trust your own kids, which I understand because maybe they're young and they don't understand. So you entrust that money to someone else.
There's another question here, Toni. What happens to property going to generation from grandparents who are deceased and still nothing in writing for ownership? Currently living are grandchildren and one outside person. What happens to property going from generation to generation and still nothing in writing? Somebody should have wrote something.
I
Hey,
mean, no, because there's a lot of people who do that until they want to refinance and they be like, we want to refinance, but grandmama and dad's name is on it. And it was like 25 years ago. Well, you're going to have to get an attorney or you're going to have to learn how to file a petition for open court, orphans court, or surrogacy court in New Jersey to open up an estate. Anything 21 years or older, you have to petition a court to open up the estate. If it's under 21 years, then really without a will, someone in the family tree, if the siblings are still alive, one of those siblings have to become the administrator of the grandparents' estate. Otherwise, you know what? People keep living in it and keep on living in it until either it gets eaten up by sheriff sale or it gets eaten up by sheriff sale. And there's a lot of people. And if they're living in it and their name's not on the deed, then you know that there's no insurance policy. So, but that's like a broke asset, broke mindset, and we rebuke that.
I think that's where I was coming from because that is so broken. That is absolute a broke mindset and a broke generation. It's the madness has to stop. And so the second part of that question is, can you still go to probate after 2 years?
Yeah, you heard me. Yeah, anything prior to 21 years. But even with that, someone has to step up and be like, "Hey, I'll be the administrator." And if at the end of the day, if there's you got to be the administrator, but it's like intestate succession, be like, if there's a spouse, then that spouse is the natural administrator first. But if there's no spouse, then the children are the natural administrators. But if there's any children who died prior to that grandparent, then you got to go into their bloodline and get them to renounce their rights to administer. All of this because someone did not take out the time to just create instructions.
Yeah. And I'm a little concerned about that so-called outside person. Whatever that means. But it sounds like trouble to me. Because sometimes
Right.
outside people are truly the inside people.
Mm,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. From a
Yeah.
more, spiritual perspective. So,
Mm,
and then you got to think about godchildren and ministries like Divine Diamonds Ministry. I'm thinking my team members, look, here's a nonprofit charitable organization. Don't forget us. Okay.
right. Right.
So there's a lot of things to think about. You need to get in touch with Toni. What's your contact information again, Toni?
Yes. Ask ToniMoore.com. Ask ToniMoore.com.
AskTonyMoore.com. Somebody please write that and post that in the chat. AskTonyMoore.com. Whoa. This was good. This was fire tonight. Wow. Thank you so much, Toni. You just stirred the fire up tonight. I see my lifetime friend Sandra McGill was on. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. I know you got a lot out of this. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Wow. Thank you, Tafia. AskTonyMoore.com. Yes. Wow. So, Toni, give us your closing remarks for tonight. Thank you so kindly.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. Thank you for having me. So, everyone, as you already know, in my spirit, uh, we pretty much get a chance to change the trajectory of our destiny, right? I realized that a lot of the stuff I did not have, now I get to, because of the fact that we get a chance to change. We get a chance to normalize estate planning, wills, trust, if that's something that's in your spirit and that's what you feel and that's in your heart that you need to do. One of the things that I've decided that, I was just tired of just talking about it, and I need to help people be about it. And the first things first is just to appreciate our responsibility to protect our legacy and our responsibility to leave instruction, right? Because I always say there's always destruction without some level of instruction. So I really want us to understand that we're not going to die if we create a will and we create a healthcare directive and we create durable powers of attorney, right? We're not going to pass away. It's actually our responsibility to just leave people better, after we're gone, right? So I want you to understand and appreciate that you need a will. Even if you end up with a trust, you still need a will, because that is at least the first level of instruction on this. Is, as someone had asked, it identifies who your family is. It identifies what specific gifts that you want to gift to your family members. It identifies where you want to be buried. It identifies who will be your minor children's guardian, and it will also identify at the end of the day also where who you would identify as your executor. Because when you do that, you put that in writing, then that really works out for you, because now your people, your family don't have to argue and fight. Because I'm telling you right now, there's always a misunderstanding that someone always thinks that if you renounce your right to administer, then you pretty much say that you don't want to take from the estate, and that's wrong. So, but I just know that when we holler and scream about gentrification, but we also feel in our spirit that we should give gifts to our families and our families and our children, and have some development plan for our churches so that they can be better, and the fact that statistically speaking, people think that there is going to be no middle class, that we all going to be poor black people by 2052. And I'm just like, not kingdom. That's, I don't know about you, but that's in my spirit, not kingdom. You know what I mean? Statistics don't dictate our existence, not kingdom. So somebody got to change it, even if it's going to be just the remnant. Can we be the remnant that makes sure that that dictates the remainder? What's going to happen to the remainder? What's going to happen to our legacy? What's going to happen to our children? How are we going to make sure that, what, they appreciate that God does all things well? How are they going to be able to bless our God because of us? So when we let our light shine before all men, let's make sure that we do what we need to do, so we alleviate confusion, chaos, and calamity upon our demise.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So, do I have any kingdom entrepreneurs here tonight? I know that this has set you up to think about your business on the next level and really taking your brand and your legacy, establishing it, and really solidifying with the instructions for future generation. It doesn't stop just when you transition, it
Mhm.
continues. And so I'm grateful tonight. And I want you to come back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. We'll have another powerhouse guest speaker as well. But tomorrow at 7 p.m., join me. One of my game changer coaching clients, one of my book coaching clients, she's launching her new book tomorrow, Fresh Start Journal. She's launching a journal tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. Pastor Pat Lankin. So join us. She's going after her bestseller, her Amazon bestseller campaign. So 7 p.m. Meet us on live on Pastor Pat's page. And if she's still with us, post your page there so we can all join in and support the movement of the next bestseller campaign. And Tony, you have a new book coming out soon, don't you?
I do. It's I'm like, what's it called? I have so many different books. So this book is called "You Need a Will," and that's the one that we're creating right now. I'm up in the air, but I want to offer as much information, and I'm still up in the air as to whether or not the book would include a basic will. You know what I mean? Because that would be fun with regards to it. Now there's like no excuse, but with regards to it, so it's called "You Need a Will," and it should be out by the end of the summer.
Oh, yes. Come back and let us know. We're going to get on that bandwagon. I'll be the first one to purchase it. I got a couple of your books already, and so I know it's going to be good. You definitely want to get Toni Moore books into your personal library. So thank you all. Everyone is sending they love Toni and thanking you for the great information. Thank you, Ruth, cousin Ruth. Thank you so much. Barbara Moore, Darlene Williams, Tafia, Child, Dana. Thank you all. Sandra, Marcella, Dr. Marcella. Thank you all. I am so, so pleased at this broadcast tonight. I tell you, Toni, thank you for flowing by the Spirit. It's just in you. God has ordained you for such a time as this to be one of the vessels that help the people, the kingdom people, to get to the next level. And we can't handle our business if we're not taking care of our business. Thank you all for joining us tonight. God bless you, Toni. Shalom.